It's said now, they say in medicine, in psychology, that a person receives about 55,000 thoughts in his head a day. 55,000. And they say about 80% of those thoughts that come to our head daily are negative. You can't do that, what are you doing? You're stupid. You know? You'll be amazed even if the people you hang around with, the sort of negativity that's actually in our conversations with one another. Okay? You know, when you walk in and you see a friend and he's got a new haircut or something, a shirt, you just can't wait to hold back and say, you know, you can't hold it back, you've got to say something. Oh, who's looking, you know. But the reality is, he says, this doesn't come from the beginning of our lives. He says, when you're born, they say when you're born, a child knows exactly what he wants. You know, if you've got any children, he'll scream his head off until he gets what he wants. He's hungry, he'll tell you. He's soiled his nappy, he's going to tell you about it. And he wants it changed. He says, and then even when you see a toddler, they've got no fear. You get that 3-year-old, he's willing to climb out the window of your house and actually jump out if you give him a chance. They have no fear whatsoever. He says, then what happens to us as we grow up? He says, what happens is they stop listening to that voice within them, that voice of what they need in life and what they want in life, and they start listening to what other people think of them and what their expectations of them. And so we have to be very careful with our children, the way we actually speak to them. Say, stop doing that, you know, all sorts of things we call our children. And say, we should encourage them, we should be facilitators. And then we have another crisis, is that we try to control our children to what we want them for them. Rather, as a people around the children, we should be facilitators so that they can fulfill their potential on this earth. That desire that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed within them. And then that's why we think, you know, the child when he's growing up, we think, oh, he's such a lovely boy. And then when he hits about 13 years of age, or 14, he turns into a monster. You say, this isn't the boy that I had when I was, you know, he was such a lovely little prince, he was my prince. And then all of a sudden, he looks like Generation X, his hair is sticking out like this, and you say, what do you want to know? I don't care. What's happened? He says, did he one day just turn into a monster? They said, no. What was happening to that child, he was taking it because at the age of 13, 14, someone wants his independence, he strives, he wants to do something, have an effect. And so he was keeping that inside, or being suppressed and being forced into where you wanted him to go, until one day he just exploded on you. He says, that's it, I can't take it anymore. And so what we need to do, we need to inspire ourselves and inspire our youth through these stories and direct them. Just like Mawla Abdul Qadir Jilani, radiallahu, when he was sitting as a child and he was looking at the cows that he was herding, he says, is this really what, you know, he's sitting there and the cow turns around and speaks to him and says, you've not been created for this, Mawla Abdul Qadir Jilani. You know, a cow. How's he reacting? He runs for it. And he's sitting on the roof, and then he said, I saw the people at Arafah and Hajj, Allah unveiled for me. He's saying, what's this lesson here? He's saying, you have a potential. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's given you Iman. He's made you of the Ummah of Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And He's given you a possibility for all kinds of things. So why do you not fulfill your potential? Why do you listen to everyone around you, putting you down, saying you can't do this, you can't do that? Why can't you do that? You're in the Ummah of Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He was a man that gave people purpose in their lives. We can achieve it. We just need to stop listening to that negativity. We've got to stop listening to the people. We don't care we care too much about what people think of us. You know, the problem with us in our society today is that we just care too much about what people are thinking about us. What's he think about? What is he? They say at 18 years of age, you're just always thinking about what other people are thinking about you. When you hit 40, you don't care what people think about you. When you hit 60, you realise no one's thinking about you. That's the reality. Everyone's thinking about themselves. They might be thinking about you what you're thinking about them. That's the reality. Why can't we just switch off and just say, live for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and free ourselves? If you think about the minutes of the days we spend thinking about what other people are thinking, you know, and they're not even thinking about us. This is the reality. We need to wake up as an ummah, and we've been put on this earth to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and fulfill. How do we do this? How can we change ourselves? He said, one person said, this is a non-Muslim that was saying this, he says, the way I succeeded in life was, those negative thoughts, I said, every time a negative thought came to me, I did the opposite of that negative thought. I recorded a negative thought, and I said, I'm going to be positive instead. And he says, instead of saying that negative statement, he wrote down what his negative statement was going to be that night. He says, I'm going to say, from now on, I'm going to say a positive statement. And then he says, the people around me, I'm going to make sure that I swerve them into positivity instead of talking about negative things. And he changed his whole life by doing that. These are non-Muslims. These are people who, in the dunya, these rules work. In the deen and the dunya. And it's so easy. That's not something difficult to do. From this day on, say to yourself, I'm going to be positive. Forget about negativity anymore. Whenever I get a negative thought, I'm just going to dismiss that negative thought. And if I can't think of something positive, I'm just going to keep shut. And you'll see what effect you have on your own life and the people around you. Because in reality, people are all down. You know when you go into the office at work and you walk in, if you walked in with flowers and singing and isn't the day great, they think you're a weirdo. Why? Because they're all miserable. They're not used to seeing that. But you'll be amazed by long term what will happen once you become a positive person. Those people around you say, I want some of this. Why is he so happy all the time? I'm as miserable as all the time. But this person's always happy, he's always, I need something from him. And the sort of da'wah, this sort of calling to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that will be phenomenal. And it will not only inspire those people around you, it will inspire yourself as well to keep striving upon the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So let's promise ourselves today just to be positive people from now on. This is how these people change. These awliya, this is how they change themselves and they change the world around them by spreading positivity. And I'll finish on one account. A famous Moroccan Shaykh, Mullah Arabi al-Darqawi, he had one of his letters. He narrates about people in Morocco. They were suffering greatly in terms of their crops, they weren't producing very much. And so they had this intention. They said, a few of the people go on Hajj this year. When we go on Hajj, let's go and find one of the Sayyids in Mecca or Medina, and let's ask him to give him one of his sons. So we can take that son back to our lands, he can marry from our tribes, and maybe Allah might bring barakah through him, that we have a Sayyid in our midst. Look at this intention. And so they go, and they perform the Hajj, and then they go up. Imagine this, you go up to a Sayyid and say, can I have one of your sons? And then he says, can we take one of your sons? He says, no problem. He says, so he brings one of his sons, he says, listen, and he has the people in front of him. He says, what do you do when someone does bad to you? He says, what do you do when someone does good to you? He says, I show them good. And if someone does some bad, I show them bad as well. I've got to defend myself, I've got to support myself against it. He says, that's fine, you can go. Next son, same question. What do you do when someone does good to you? Good. If someone does bad to you, I show them badness, of course. I've got to have my boundaries. He says, you can go. Until they came to the youngest son. He says, what do you do if someone does good to you? I show them goodness. If someone's bad to you, he says, I show them goodness. He says, what are you talking about, you show them goodness? He says, he's done bad to you, he says, no. I don't just take it. I just keep showing goodness and goodness to him until I overcome his badness. So proactivity, not you just take it, you just come back proactive. You know, that person punches you, you give him a good kiss on the cheek. You know, proactivity there. It's not just taking it and running away. He's proactive in his goodness. He said, you take him. Take this one. And so they take the boy and they take him back. To this day, the ruling royal family of Morocco are from his lineage. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't just put barakah and righteous amongst him, they gave his family to this day authority in the land because of that intention that they wanted to bring the barakah of Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam into their lives to someone who wasn't just a sayyid in name, he was a sayyid in terms of his practice as well. And so this is the barakah, this is the connection of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to us, and that to this day it's still there. We've just got to implement it, but not only we've got to take the company of those people who implement in our lives. Very clear, people are very confused today. They say, you know, I get a lot of people, converts, they come to me and all the Muslims come around and says, oh my goodness me, you know, do you know how many groups there are in Islam? You know, and what are we going to say about them and them and them and them? I say it's very simple. You say, look, I'm not going to tell you to not sit with him or not sit with him. I say, This is your criterion for people. They inspire you, they only speak of positive things, and they practice what they preach. Sit with whoever you want now. And I'll tell you what, he'll be sitting always with the best of company. Okay? It's very simple. We don't go around and start polluting people's minds with negativity, rather positivity, and then the positive will stand out like a beacon of light for them. Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen.